Are you ready to revolutionize your breath and unlock its untapped power? As audacious as it sounds, I'm going to tell you how you can do better than Wim Hof or yogic breathing techniques. We will explore a fuller picture of breath, spirit, and transformation, and even give you the hidden truth of how Wim Hof has become so superhuman. I'll be real with you. I've been a devoted yogi for 27 years. The blunt truth, though, is that most yogis don't breathe well and are often control freaks. Fear not, though. The astounding power of breath is, well, just one breath away. And, for now at least, it's free and unregulated. Aloha, y'all. I'm Daniel Aaron, your guide to vibrant living, and on this channel you get entertainment, inspiration, and empowerment to break free from the soul-sapping grip of the cult of meh and create truly inspiring, vibrant, thriving lives. As more and more of us awaken to our true potential, together we are creating a world where peace and prosperity flourish, fostering change on a profound scale. Let's get into it. Breath is, quite literally, the measure of life. It just makes sense then, right? If breath equals life, if we're breathing a little, we've got a little life. If we're breathing poorly, then, well, our life sucks. So, as you unlock your breath, you unlock your potential. Before we get to my initial punky assertions about Wim Hof's breath, here's a little context. I was an asthmatic kid. I had a lot of birth trauma and a lot of other problems. In 1996, a year after a spiritual awakening, I moved to a place called Omega Institute in upstate New York. They called it a holistic learning center. We called it New Age Summer Camp for Adults. I'd been there less than a week when someone said to me, "Hey, are you going to this breathing thing tonight?" I said, What is it?" They said, "Oh, it's really powerful, it's intense." That evening I joined the group. I listened to what the instructor told us about the breath. There were about 50 of us packed into a pretty small room. So when we actually started the breathing laying down, we were, laying pretty close to each other. After a few moments of this breathing, less than 2 minutes, I swear, people around me were having astounding experiences, or so it seemed to me. I was hearing vocalizations, there were tears, it seemed like a lot was going on. Me, however, nothing. As in, nothing was happening. Then, a miraculous thing happened, which was, I got to see a limiting belief. As if a ticker tape ran across the inside of my forehead. It said, "This is going to work for everyone else but you." Sometimes we're lucky in life, where a limiting belief shows itself, we immediately recognize that it is not true, not helpful, and in fact, stupid, which is what happened for me. And so in that moment, I saw it disappeared, and then, no kidding, it felt to me like I was on a luge. Like suddenly I went from nothing happening to, whew, so powerful was the change. Suddenly, I was standing on a bridge, not just any bridge, the bridge that my sister jumped to her death from. I can't explain this in any way that really makes sense. It didn't make sense to me at the time. However, what was immediately clear was I was inside her body. I was inside her body. She was holding on to the chain link fence, leaning out over the water, getting ready to jump. I was immediately panicked. I could feel my heart racing. I was scared. I knew I was inside her body, and it was also clear that I didn't have any control. I couldn't stop her from what was going to happen. Sure enough, after a moment, she let go of the fence, and we fell, dropped toward the water. The water rushed up toward us. And if I had felt a moment before that like I was freaking out, scared, panicky, it quadrupled in that moment. Then, just before we hit the water, back up on the bridge. And it was like Groundhog Day, the movie. It was the same thing happening over and over again. Suddenly we were back on the bridge. And again, she let go, we fall, almost hit the water, back up on the bridge. And this is in this loop. And I'm sweating, screaming, my pulse is racing. I can feel myself, my physical body's laying on the floor, but I can feel myself arched up like this. This cycle was horrible. And in that moment, the woman who is leading the seminar, the workshop, she came over to me. She put her hand on my chest and she said this affirmation: I'm coming into a new way of understanding. And y'all, in that moment, when she said that, suddenly everything changed. Panic and fear that I had been just a moment before so immersed in disappeared. My body relaxed down onto the ground. My breath slowed down a little bit, and immediately I saw something that had been plaguing me at this point for years and about which I was completely unaware, which was I had locked together my love of my sister Casey, who had killed herself, along with the pain and the guilt of her death. I had come to the unconscious conclusion that in order to continue loving her and appreciating her, I had to hold on to all this pain. In that moment, suddenly I became aware that actually these are separate things. And in fact, I can let go of the pain and not only still have the love and the closeness, I get to have it in a pure way. Prior to that in my life, I had experienced what Abraham Maslow calls a peak experience. However, every time I'd had these peak experiences, they either came randomly, like out of nowhere, or through some kind of substance. In either case, though, they were not really valuable to me because it was dependent on something outside of myself. When I had this peak experience through transformational breath, what I realized immediately was, holy moly, this is a methodological opening. As in, here is a method. If you do this, and shockingly enough, it's just breathing. If you do this, if you breathe in this way, you will have a peak experience. Every session is different. There's not a guaranteed experience. What I do know, though, is you will have a peak experience. From that moment, I was in. I was hooked. I knew that I needed to do more of that. Now, not necessarily because I wanted to be a practitioner or help anybody else with it. I didn't have altruism in mind in that moment. What I had was, I need more of this for me to heal, to grow, to move forward in my life, to reach into my potential. That year, I dove in deeply. I joined a professional training with my teacher, Judith Kravitz, and I got to study, to practice, to assist her. That deep dive led me to not only having incredible, powerful healing experiences myself, it led me to being of service to other people through this, something I've been doing now for nearly 3 decades. Now, going back to my punky assertion about Wim Hof and my little snipe at yogic breathers, why do I say those things? Well, let's start with yoga. First of all, you may have heard of yogic breathing, which is often called pranayama. It's a mistranslation of the word prana, means energy or life force. Pranayama is the controlling of life force in order to set it free, or another way of saying it, it's energy manipulation. It's incredibly powerful. What we learn as yogis in breathing is to control and limit the breath. In fact, pranayama is said to only begin when we hold the breath, when we stop breathing. On the flip side, transformational breath is like breathing freely. It's breathing like a wild animal running through the forest, or like when you are engaged in something that's exciting, shall we say. I love yoga. I've been a yogi for a long time. To me, yoga is the slow, steady path to awakening. Transformational breath, it's the superhighway to consciousness and awakening. By the way, good news for yogis is, even though a lot of us learn to control our emotions, our breath, try to control other things in life, which never works, of course. And when I lead transformational breath workshops and private sessions, yogis, like myself, are often the hard luck cases, have the hardest time to really get the way we breathe in transformational breath. It's not complex, it's super simple, yet it's learning something new. The great news, though, is they always get it. I know exactly how to share it and teach it and assist so that anybody can master this breathing technique very quickly. The thing is, breath is completely natural. Even though we've been conditioned to restrict ourselves, and a lot of us learned some really dysfunctional breathing patterns, and a lot of us have been stuck with certain types of trauma that hold us back, we are self-healing mechanisms. So anybody can learn it and get incredible benefit from this breath. These days, breath and breath workshops really popular. And what transformational breath is all about, and I'll put it in a category or class which we could call therapeutic breathing, and there are many different styles with variations. I prefer transformational breath, and many of them have great, wonderful qualities to them. Therapeutic breath on some level means breathe more, breathe faster. Some people call it hyperventilation or hyperoxygenization. Simply put, it's powerful and it works. So why has Wim Hof, the Iceman, become so known and popular in the last decade or so? Well, one, his feats are incredible. They're inspiring. Two, it's something that we all aspire to, this beyond human capability. Show you what I mean. Take the word inspiration. Inspiration we think of as being inspired about something, towards something, like there's an activity or a project or a person or something that's inspiring us. And how does it feel when you're inspired like that, right? Nothing else matters. That's all. We can go without sleep. We can go without eating. We have infinite energy. So where does that word come from? Inspiration. In other languages, inspira, Spanish, means to breathe in, and in English too. Inspire is breathing in. Expire, which also means die, is breathing out. And so when we inspire, we're breathing in. When we expire, we're dying. Take it one step further. Inspire means in spirit, right? So again, breath is the measure of life. When we are breathing, we are alive. When we breathe more, we are more alive. When we breathe better, we are living a better quality life. I am not in any way dismissing or casting any disrespect toward Wim Hof. I've met him, I've trained with him. I appreciate what he does immensely, and his methodology is missing at least one very important key ingredient. That ingredient, your destination. And if you look at all the different types of breath work out there, they all, either in an explicit or implicit way, have a purpose to it. The purpose for transformational breath is to remember who we truly are. In other words, we create an intention every time we breathe consciously, and the intention with transformational breath is to remember the truth of who we are. It's to live up to our potential. It's to awaken. So how is it that Wim Hof can do these superhuman feats? It's because all of us have one part that's human, what I call the human animal, and we have another part that is spirit, or the human spirit. We are, in fact, a mix of these two and more components. When Wim Hof has become who he is, part of how he's done that is through a lot of breathing, a lot of bringing in spirit. In other words, he has embraced and energized the human spirit part of himself, that part which is invincible, beyond fear, capable of anything. Guess what? The same is possible for you. You're not, of course, here to be the Iceman or to do what he's done, yet I know about you that there is immense untapped potential. So my invitation to you is twofold. One, get into it. Do some deep yogic transformational breath. In the description below is a link to my teacher's website where you can find a practitioner near you, and I encourage you to go get a session, go to a group, get some training on it. Now, really cool and important thing about transformational breath is it is not the old psychoanalytic model. When I work with people, I'm not looking for them to come to my office once a week and lay on the sofa and tell me about their problems for the next 10 years. No, one of the amazing great things about transformational breath is ours. There's no government agency regulating it. It's free. You can do it when you want on your own. That said, for most of us, the first few sessions are critical because whatever we need to release, whatever trauma is held in the system, and I talk more about that in other places, that tends to come up in the beginning. So it's really useful to have typically around 3 sessions where you are guided, where you have a trained, skillful practitioner with you who will say, keep breathing, you're going to be okay, you'll come to the other side of this. Or if you're interested in working with me at one of my groups here on Maui, in person, privately, or virtually, there's information in the description about that too. My second invitation to you is simply tune in, become more aware of your breath. The more aware you are of it, the better it will get. Bottom line, breath is life. Make your life a masterpiece. Thanks so much for tuning in and watching, y'all. If you found value in this video, you might like this one too. Aloha.